Welcome to the Default Profitable Podcast, a show where we dive into real strategies for people who are starting and running businesses to make sure that profit is the default option rather than a happy circumstance. Whether you're a founder, a leader, or just a curious builder starting to dream, this podcast should be a toolkit. And I'm your host, Matt Nettleton. Today, my guest is Grant Kirsh. Grant, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation.
No problem. This is going to be interesting because, again, second generation family owned business and something that's personally important to me, being adopted.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take 2 or 3 minutes, introduce yourself before we get into the business?
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. My name is Grant Kirsh. I'm the managing partner with the law firm of Kirsh and Kirsh PC, located here in Indianapolis, Indiana. My family has been handling adoptions, adoption law and adoptions in Indiana for over 40 years. I say family, the 4 attorneys are my dad, my 2 uncles, and myself. My dad's retired now, but my wife works with us, aunt works with us, cousin works with us. She brings her baby to the office. Mom and brother used to work here. A handful of our dogs run around the office, so it is a lot of family. I often say we're ripe for a reality TV show, but I don't think I'd ever subject all of us to that or the world to that either. My dad, Steve, like I said, who's retired, is a past president of the American Academy of Adoption Attorneys. He actually wrote mostly all of the law that has to do with adoption in Indiana since the late 1980s, early 1990s. I tell you all that not to brag, just to inspire confidence that at least when it comes to adoption, we like to think we know what we're doing.
All right. So how did you end up as the managing partner today? Give us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. So growing up as the son of an adoption attorney, I was very much exposed to this a lot through my childhood. There's a lot of memories of my being an adoption attorney. You're on call all the time. You never get a break. So as a kid, I always remember we were at family events or soccer games, or even at a movie, in a movie theater. My dad would have to run out of the room to take a phone call. I mean, this guy had a pager and a cell phone before most people had pagers and cell phones, because you have to be very available to people. No offense to my dad or the line of work, but I always grew up kind of knowing 3 things to be true. One is that I didn't want to live in Indiana. I didn't want to be an attorney, and I didn't really have a desire to work for my dad. Okay. So I actually graduated college and moved away and moved all over the country for a number of years doing other things, specifically commercial real estate. And during the crash of '08, I was in commercial real estate, market tanked, and I was a real estate broker, and I kept having all these deals falling apart. And if you're in real estate, you only get paid when the deals happen. But I noticed that even when the deals fell apart, the attorneys always got paid. And I said, I think I should be an attorney. That looks like a better, more secure lifestyle than being a real estate broker working on a deal for a year and then not making any money on it. So I decided to go to law school, kind of shelter, like what do they say? Any port in a storm type thing, see through that downturn in the economy for a little while. And my actually plan was to go into real estate law. And I came home. I was living in Colorado. I came home to go back to school at IU for law school at Valparaiso, and then IU. But came home and I was shadowing my dad a little bit and walking around to go into hearings with him and consent signings. And I think he knew exactly what he was doing. But just really downplayed it or just slow played it on me. And I kept just looking around, being like, man, this is I'd seen it my whole life, but never really been right in front of it, and realized how unbelievably rewarding his work was and what he's built is, because this law firm is arguably the most reputable, what he built was arguably the most reputable adoption law firm in the entire country. I mean, if anyone who knows adoption law and the adoption process anywhere in the country, if they know anything about it, they know our name or know my dad's name and know what we've built. So I went to law school and then started law school and then kind of started moving towards this being adoption law. Also, I'd started dating my wife when I started law school. We were high school friends. We knew each other in high school, started dating at this point in our life. And my dad actually needed a paralegal, and she's brilliant. She's very smart. So my dad decided to hire her. And well, I kind of convinced him, but she's also Phi Beta Kappa, very smart. He hired her, and while we were dating, and then kind of on the pretense of once I got out of law school, she would leave and I would come into the firm and kind of be a paralegal and work my way into it and figure things out. And I remember like a month or two after that job started, my dad said to me, "You better make this work because she's not leaving when you're done. So you got to figure out a way to make it work with her and with the company," because he had fallen in love with her and how much of a hard worker she was as well. So, um,
No
so then
pressure.
law school, and then came back here. And when I came into the law firm, my dad had kind of told me that I need to find my own path, if you will. He had been practicing adoption law with private newborn adoption, and my uncle Joel was doing families and step parent adoptions. And he kind of said, well, if you want to get into this, maybe you could start handling foster care adoptions. And that's something that Kirsh and Kirsh hadn't done historically for the previous 40 years. So that's how I got to where I am today.
All right. When, so at what, so I guess I have to ask, your dad's retired. Is your uncle retired?
My uncle, so my Steve Kirsh is my dad.
Right.
My uncle, one of my my uncles, Joel, my dad's younger brother, joined the practice very shortly after my dad started the practice back in the 80s. And dad's retired, Joel's still around. I joined the practice many years later. I mean, after it was about 12 years ago, I joined the practice. And then actually after I joined the practice, my other uncle, their youngest brother, Rob, also an attorney, joined the practice. So both my uncles are they're still work. My other uncle Joel is pretty close to the age of retiring, so he'll retire at some point, and probably maybe somewhat coinciding with my wife completing law school and joining the firm as well.
Yeah. So that was the next question is, and I know we talked about this on earlier. Um, your wife was a paralegal for a long time and then decided to just go to law school and become an attorney at the firm as part of the
Yeah,
practice, correct?
correct. I mean, in losing my dad, retiring and being down an attorney, and then knowing my uncle's going to retire, I was going to need to hire another attorney. My wife and I kind of saw this on the horizon that we needed to bring someone else in. And my wife had been a paralegal for so long and knows everything about, if any lawyers out there, any paralegals out there, kind of know that the really good paralegals is just as good, if not better, than the attorneys. And my wife kind of hit a point where she knew that we were going to hire someone, and and then she would be working for that new attorney who knew nothing about adoption, because we know everything about adoption. And she had always had this itch to go to law school. And it was just enough of a nudge for her to say, you know what, I'm going to go do it.
Now, has she already printed her business cards with managing partner?
You know what? I've joked around with her a couple of times, and it wasn't received very well, that as soon as she's done, I am retiring and going home and taking care of the kids, and she
Perfect.
can run this whole thing if she wants. She's like, no, it's not the deal. She's way smarter than I am, so it's going to be an interesting dynamic having her and I working together in that regard.
Excellent. All right. So you set out on this whole journey with a goal not to be an attorney, not to work
Mhm.
for your dad, and not to live in Indiana. And
Mhm.
obviously that has worked out poorly for you. You're 0 for
Yeah,
3.
yeah, not completely. Yeah, did it. So I moved around the country to all these places, kind of in this pursuit of happiness. I moved to San Diego, beautiful place to live. Moved to Chicago, fun city to live. Moved to Denver, beautiful place and fun place to live. And nowhere was ever home. I also went to school in New York for a little while, in Manhattan. Um, uh, Lived in Boulder, Colorado for a little stint after high school. And I kind of said that because I thought Indiana was boring and who wants to live in Indiana? I came to realize this is home. And the funny thing about that, I'm glad you brought me back to it. I've never been happier. And I'm thrilled I live in Indiana. I'm thrilled and I'm an attorney, and I'm thrilled that I got the chance to work with my dad. The place where, as a 16-year-old, when I was 16, when I said those are the things I never want to do, I was literally defining the place I found myself to be the absolute happiest in my life.
Yeah. It's, well, I've got 2 kids that went to college, and both went out of their way to tell us how they were going to go far, far away. And, we live in Fishers. One ended up at Purdue, one ended up at IU. So,
There you go. Right, right. Yeah. My
yeah.
dad always told me this, that, as kids, you grow up, you're a little kind of a puppy, kind of a dog. And then you get to an age where you kind of turn into a cat, right?
Yep.
And maybe kind of subhuman, if you will. And then once you get through those kind of lizard brain teenage years and you hit your 20s, you kind of become a human again, or you come back to being a dog and you realize your parents aren't that bad and you want to nestle up kind of next to them.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about 12 years ago. Your dad's retiring, you're taking over the firm. What are some of the things? I mean, you had been an attorney, you'd been around it your entire life, but when you get put into the big chair of running the firm, what are some of the things that you had to learn?
And it was at 12 years ago when I became an attorney. It was about 2 years ago, I actually purchased the firm from him.
Okay.
And about, I want to say it was about 2020, kind of mid-COVID. My dad had a very minor hit a stroke, a very
Okay.
minor stroke. It was more of an awakening for him than anything else, where he was always of the mindset, this is his desk, this is his office, it's mine. It was his, but he always kind of said he was going to leave here feet first. And that stroke really woke him up, and he decided he didn't want to die sitting at his desk. So I've been running it. I've been running it since he had the stroke about 5 years ago. Purchased it just a couple years ago. So to answer your question, what are the things that re-ask the
Well, so
question.
now knowing that it's not really 12 years ago, there really are 2 times that you would have had to go through a slight learning curve.
Yes.
One is 5 years ago when you
Yes.
started running the show,
Yes.
right? Let's talk about some of those lessons.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, after the stroke, I mean, it's a good point you're bringing up, because I really thought I had, a runway.
Oh, you were wired.
Yeah. I was like, man, I got my dad for the next 20 years sitting across the hall from me. The the One of the hardest things about being a business owner, I think, is managing your employees. That is, um, and then there's this little asterisk next to it for me, where you read the asterisk, and as 90% of the employees are family members of yours.
And based on prior interviews, you also have a second asterisk that, oh, by the way, you're a second generation business owner sitting at your dad's desk.
Yeah.
Not that there's any emotional connection there.
No, right. 100%. Yeah, 100%. So, and just you kind of go into these things. I think the odds of being a second generation business owner, that, pretty stacked against you, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of businesses out there that fail in the second generation. So you've got that in the back of your mind. So, managing is, managing. My dad had a philosophy of that. He didn't micromanage our staff. He didn't want to, everyone gets their work done. We ask a lot of our employees. It's a demanding hours, 7 days a week sometimes. So we just count on everyone to do their work. And it's, um, that, and it's a small enough office that there can be enough. You want to make sure you have to have the right group of people working that can work together. Hiring someone is not a me decision. Hiring someone is an entire office decision, because I have to see, and everyone has to see, that they can fit into this little spot that we have, for them in a very tight knit group of people. So I would say the toughest thing was figuring that out at first, was how to manage people while still spinning all the other plates you have to spin and running a company. It's very challenging.
So I'm going to ask this, and it's not a common question for me, but it's something that we deal. So I work with a lot of small business owners, and when they say manage, they're really implying supervising. But what you're talking about is really leading, which involves a lot more recruiting than supervision. Meaning
Yeah,
getting people
yeah,
to buy into the mission and vision rather than asking them when are they showing up and how long are they staying out at lunch.
yeah. No, I mean, it is, you really are, that's such a good point. Um, you really are driving the ship. If I come into the office in a bad mood and treat everyone poorly and take anything out on them, it echoes through the halls. If I have a negative attitude about things that go wrong, that's the culture of the company. I mean, if, and that happens in a lot of different little ways. So you have to be really um, aware of the culture you're creating. That was a something I learned, not because anyone told me that. It was literally just I would realize when if you're an employee, you just kind of, you're working your thing, and of course your attitude is going to affect your coworkers. But man, when you're sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in, if you're not driving that culture and the respect that you need to have for the people that you're working with and the process and all these things, if you're not the leading by example, it's gonna turn around and bite you in the ass for sure.
Yeah. So, not being a startup business, but kind of rolling through generation, how much of a strategic plan did you have 5 years ago when you stepped into the chair?
We've got a couple different things that we do in the world of adoption. What I mean, like private newborn adoption, these family adoptions, these foster care adoptions, and some kind of things in between those. The the core of our business is private newborn adoptions. Someone who's pregnant, who's considering creating an adoption plan for their child, contacts us, and we help them through that adoption. We help them through their adoption plan if that's what they want to do. The the um, that has become a very competitive space around the country in the last handful of years. A handful of 8 to 10 years or so, and how marketing is changed in our space. And marketing and for private newborn adoptions is vastly different than any other type of marketing I've ever encountered. So, my strategic plan. Sorry,
Strategery.
strategic. Yeah, exactly right. My strategery um, is is very difficult. I mean, it is really it's hurting cats on how marketing works in this space. And and I'm dancing around my words here because there are some really nuanced little trade secrets in how I do what I do that I wouldn't want anyone to catch wind of, because it is such an unbelievably competitive space, compounded with I've got a lot of people who are illegally providing these services that are out there that are trying to do it as well. And it's putting a lot of little mom and pop adoption agencies out of business, and trying to get the state. I'm working with the state right now to try to take um, to make sure that the laws are upheld in Indiana in regards to who can
Well,
provide.
so let me kind of step back. So that's all very tactical, right? Um, and you know, this is episode 165-ish,
Okay.
right? And probably the sixth or seventh family-owned business I've talked to. But for the first generation businesses, there's a consistent theme of in order to start a business, you have to have 6 months of savings, a valid, accurate strategic plan, and a clear understanding of what people will tell you will pay you for. And most people when they start a business from scratch had zero of those three items, right? And it
Yes.
usually takes them 5 to 10 years before they really have financial security, a clear strategic vision, and a real understanding of what their value is. As I'm hearing you talk, the the business has been solid and growing since the 80s.
Correct.
Right. So finances has never really been a thing that you've worried about as in the 12 years that you've been there. And tactically, you have a very clear set of 3 primary services.
Correct.
But strategically, it sounds like you've just focused tactically on running and going with the business rather than developing an overall 5 or 10-year vision of what you want to accomplish, which is a perfectly valid option.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my dad and I had conversations about this, and he was very clear. He said, what we do works.
Right.
Don't make the mistake of feeling you got to come in and fix something that isn't broken.
Right.
And that was really hard to do at first, because I did come in with these grand plans of, oh, we're going to do this and do this and do that. And he helped kind of temper some things that I now in retrospect looking back on would have been bad choices.
Yes.
So it is very accurate in the sense of like I'm just trying to keep the ship righted. I don't need to do anything other than just keep us in that path and keep us moving forward.
All right. When you look out, like, do you have other relatives that are getting other than your wife, do you have other relatives getting their law licenses that you're going to be able to hire?
I have a brother who's now in law school.
Perfect.
Yeah. But he is not coming to work for me.
Okay. He's going to do real estate?
He's going to go do real estate. Yeah. He's figure out what he's going to do, but he made his announcement just this summer that he was starting law school, and he just started in the last couple months. So we're heavy on lawyers. We're very heavy.
Yes, clearly.
Yeah, very heavy. And he and I had conversations about it, and I told him we're slimming ourselves up over here on family members. I'm trying to make it life easier for myself, and maybe he and I worked together. He worked here for a while, and he had worked here for a long time actually, but not as a lawyer. And he decided to go on and do other things. I love my brother. He's my real brother. I love him. And I've got a younger brother too. I love him too. I'm actually meeting with him later today. He's in the AI space, so we're gonna start working on some AI projects, because that's the next step. So
all right. So as you look back, right, 5 years of running the ship since your dad got sick and you took over, if 2025 Grant could sit down next to 2020 Grant and say, hey, listen, I know tomorrow you go in, you're running the show. Your dad's, he's fallen ill, but it's your ship now. Everything works out, so you don't have to worry about that. But what would be your advice of what's the first thing you do when you take over? What's the first thing that you should do?
2025 telling 2020.
Yep.
I think it would be back to the last a couple points ago that I made of just stay in your lane. Trust everyone that they're going to do their work, and don't look to go reinvent the wheel. My dad's created a company that's proven itself over the decades, and that's one thing. I would also probably tell myself to delegate more. Try not to do everything on your own, at least initially. So that's a really, for my personality type or management type or whatever it might be, whatever you call it, I have a hard time of not trying to do everything myself for myself all the time. I've got a lot of great help. I'm not doing it all alone, but there's just a lot of things that I'm doing that I maybe should be delegating.
Yeah, it's so I'm going to give you a line that we use a lot, which is that small business owners pay people a lot of money to show up to work so that they can be prevented from helping.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I fall victim to the algorithm and, Instagram reels from time to time. Now there's this one reel that kept popping up for a while, which is what people think a business owner looks like. And it's this guy walking in and his employees handing him, piles of money and,
Yes.
good looking women swooning over how, suave he is. And that's what people think, it is being this business owner, how great life is. And then what it like really looks like. And it's like you walking in with 15 boxes falling over and like stepping on dog shit and like tripping and falling and then someone kicking you. And then, you getting someone a cup of coffee and then,
Yes.
and then your wallet's completely empty,
And you
so.
can't figure out why.
And you can't figure out why, right? Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's that's exactly what it is. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah. I wish it was funny, but it's not.
Yeah, you can only laugh at yourself there. Yeah, I'm
Well,
with you. I'm with you.
all right. Well, hey, that was a quick 25 minutes with a lot of just good fundamentals of awareness of what you're doing,
Mhm.
consistency of effort, focus on your knitting, stay in your lane. I think there's a lot of messages in there that are super good. So thanks for being a great guest.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to seeing the episode. And I appreciate what you're doing. This is a great podcast. I had a chance to listen to some of the episodes, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. So, hey, if you're listening, 3 ways you can help: leave a review, hit subscribe, share an episode. Other than that, Grant, thanks for being a guest, and we'll be back next week. Until then, stay focused, keep working, stay profitable.